While I kind of like where I live, there are times where it becomes a big pain in the butt because the few theaters that are local to me, they don't have that many screens. Sometimes I have to go out of my way to see things or I have to wait a while. But I've now seen Jordan Peele's Nope. I actually got to see this with my partner Liz. Both of us like Jordan Peele's movies quite a bit. Um, and this was really good. I I feel like some people would, want to like rank Jordan Peele's films, what's the best, what's the worst, and I could do that, but I'm not going to simply because like even the worst of the 3 films he's directed is still really good. So at this point it feels like a almost pointless distinction cuz this is real good. The First of all, the I am eventually going to get into spoilers, but I will warn you. So, what this does incredibly well is tension. The tension in these scenes as they build towards whatever's coming, and this includes flashbacks for the record. The tension in those scenes is palpable. It's really ratcheted up. It doesn't have that many jump scares. It has a couple, just a couple. But it's not too egregious about it, and they're decently executed for what they are. I'm not a big jump scare fan, for the record, but these are some tense scenes. The acting is exactly what it needs to be. This is not a particularly showy film for the actors. Unlike, say, Get Out or Us, which got to be a little bit more actor showpieces. Not to say the actors don't shine. Actually, the actors shine quite a bit, but there really isn't anything as immediately like, oh wow, that performance. Because like, especially for Daniel Kaluuya, like he's playing a character who's very inwardly turned. He's very restrained, and it's not a particularly expressive or emotive character, but he plays it really well. And his sister is much more energetic, but even that is still, within what feels like kind of a believable range for these two as siblings. And the supporting characters is a character named Angel who is fun, but again, not super over the top. None of these parts are super showy. Even Keith David, who is not in it very much, but he is there, and I have to mention it because Keith David, oh, that man. So here's the thing. I told you I was going to do spoilers, and I will. But the one thing that I want to be sure that you know, before I even dip a toe into that, is if you saw a trailer and you thought it showed you too much and spoiled, stuff coming later in the movie, it really didn't. It really, really didn't. The stuff that was put in the trailers, that level of reveal happens relatively early into the film, and where it goes from there is a whole other thing. This has the quality that has so far been true for all 3 of Jordan Peele's movies for me, which is that the more I think about it, the more I like it. And I love any movie that can do that for me. He's not the only director to do that for me. Like, I feel that way about Knives Out, for another relatively recent film example. But I love a movie that I can come out and go, that feels good. But sometimes, you come out and you think about a movie, it's like, that was a good time. And that's the feeling you leave with. But then you think about it and like, oh, it's not sure it's a good movie, though, is it? Because, like, honestly, and this is weird for me to think about, but I try not to let myself get this. I came out of Rise of Skywalker thinking, oh, that was pretty good. Then I actually thought about it, and I'm like, oh, God, it really wasn't. But something that I can come out and already like it and just think about it more and more and be like, no, this is even better than my first impression was. And that's what I get from this. That's what I've gotten from all of Jordan Peele's movies so far. And the way this story unfolds is just really, really well executed. It's maybe just a tiny bit longer than it needs to be. Like, I'm not even sure I could pin down a scene that like should go, but like the whole thing could probably be nickeled and dimed for about 5 minutes, but no more than that. Like 5 minutes in the middle. it doesn't drag that badly. It could just stand a little tightening, mostly in the middle, but even that doesn't bother me. And like I said, none of the scenes felt pointless or superfluous. And so to really start getting into this, I am going to need to go into what I'm going to consider layer one of spoilers, which is I'm going to talk about something that if you've seen the trailers, you already know. So if you've already been spoiled that much, you can stick around. I will get into the further layer of spoilers, and I will warn you when I go there. But comparing this as a sort of flying saucer alien invasion movie kind of thing, which is I think where it slots in terms of its overall genre approach, the way things are framed and handled. We haven't had a good one of those in a while. Now, it's actually a really tricky genre to get done well because, well, I mean, if anything, the sort of fatal flaw for a lot of those kinds of films, if they're not going to have the invading force win, then they're really hard to end. Because if this force has, spanned the galaxies, who knows what, and come here, like, how are we ever going to defeat that? And the reasons that we end up doing that can often come across as contrived, and it can kill otherwise strong movies. That's kind of been the case since the War of the Worlds, any movie version, and also the original work. Or for a more recent example, Signs, which is a movie I actually kind of defend, and I actually even feel that the thing at the end, that how that all gets dealt with, that people love to rip on, I actually don't think is as bad as everyone says it is, but that's a whole other conversation. But, there's great tension in Signs with an ending that lost a lot of people. A movie that, ironically, almost no one remembers is a movie called The Forgotten, which was a great, tense movie and botched its ending. So these things are very hard to get right. This does some really interesting things, which would be more in the outright spoiler section, that make this, I think, an exemplar of pulling this off. And when the thing is moving through the clouds, it's so silent, but it's so fast. It's unsettling. Like walking back to the car, I found myself looking up by the clouds and being a little bit like, and it's not like it gave me nightmares or anything, but just sort of it just reframed my brain, so I was on the lookout, and that says a lot. I am going to get into proper spoilers now because I need to. So this is your last warning. I know seriously, that was your last warning. So I know I just kind of said it's an alien invasion movie. And it's not really, because it's not a ship. It's a creature. But the framing, and if I were to compare it genre-wise to anything else, it is framed and moved forward and bears far more resemblance to alien invasion, alien abduction narratives than any kind of traditional monster movie. And for that reason, I still think comparisons to things like Signs or The Forgotten is perfectly valid. And part of the reason that this does better than those is by the fact that it's not a ship. It's a creature. And the thing that you come to realize is that what this movie is ultimately about is the way people stop thinking of animals as animals. They think of them as something that they can tame, that will serve them, or that they can take advantage of. And they forget what it is they're actually dealing with, especially if it's a predator. That's why there's all the stuff with Gordy. That's why that's the opening of the movie. It's why we get that flashback in detail. And that flashback is unfreaking settling. So that's the reason that's there. That's the reason, the comparison to Siegfried and Roy is made. Never forget, just because you're human and that's not, doesn't mean it's going to do what you want. You might be able to pass a cognitive test that animal couldn't. It doesn't care. And it's really well, and the design on this thing, especially at the end when it like fully unfurls, it's stunning. And I love it for being so goddamn weird. I love when sci-fi and alien things, especially, and like, I know it's debatably not an alien. I'll touch on that in a second. But like, again, framing and the way it's presented, I love when things are truly properly alien. The way that they behave, the laws that seem to dictate their physics, how their physical forms work, all of it makes zero sense by terrestrial logic. I love that so much. And this freaking nails it. That design is amazing. Even when it's just the saucer, it's already unsettling in the way of how silent, how quick it is, like I said. But like towards the end, when I first noticed, it seemed to be like kind of inflating and deflating. I saw like different things going on. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But then as it really kind of unfurled, whoa, man, wow. And like I said, again, part of the reason it's debatable whether this is technically an alien movie, this creature, if you've seen the movie, you'll understand why I'm about to call it this jean jacket. It's distinctly possible that it's not extraterrestrial. There's lots of theories online. There's that line that's actually a biblical line that opens the thing, and there's some theories that these kinds of creatures have been around for a while, and they're actually kind of what inspired like the biblical angels, like the "be not afraid," the actual proper biblical horrifying angels. Like maybe these were that, and you could see how their feeding would seem like pulling people into heaven and whatnot. And I'm not here to debate the validity of any of those theories. I actually think, honestly, unless you are a lore or, theorist and that's your bag, it's not really mine. I don't think it matters to the experience of watching the film. But regardless of what it actually is, it's still handled narratively like an alien force. Much like in the same way that 28 Days Later might not technically be a zombie movie because these are not the dead come back to life. They still function as zombies. This thing still functions as initially a saucer and then later an alien being. I'm going to still consider it and discuss it in those terms regardless of the specifics. Because there is the narrative absolute fact, but then there's the narrative framing. One does not necessarily require the other in order to line up and function. Having gone all through that, I don't know how much more I have to say. This was really good. It built so well. And like I said, so many scenes of so much tension and little moments with these characters to get to know them, all of them, really well, and to really feel for them when they were endangered or in some cases died. It's really excellently put together at about every level, which is kind of what I've come to expect from Jordan Peele at this point. And he didn't disappoint. Like, I've loved his other two movies. I loved Get Out. I loved Us. So when you've got 2 home runs in a row, as far as I'm concerned, for you to come up and deliver something that doesn't leave me going, not as good, or, that's a little bit of a letdown, but instead I'm going, it's so good. That says a lot, because I had high expectations for this. And sometimes in a movie, you go in and you come on like, I really like that, and you wonder, was it lowered expectations? I sometimes wonder that when I think about Thor: Love and Thunder, which I do still like, and I look forward to watching again when it's eventually on streaming. But I know I went into that with lower expectations because nobody else seems to be liking it all that much. I ended up liking it a lot. Would I still have liked it as much if I gone in already thinking it was going to be really good? I don't know. But I can tell you, I went into Nope thinking this is going to be really good and coming out going, that was so good. Jordan Peele, Nope. If you're at this point in the video, I hope that it's something that you've seen. Otherwise, you're someone who doesn't give a crap about spoilers. In either case, whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills and is what enables me to do this as my living. So any support you can give there is a great assistance. But even if you can't, don't worry too much about it, because we try and take a relaxed attitude around here. So you can just come on back next time you need a break. Time to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons. That would include Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Theotha Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Idolin, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shaylee Gourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. If you want your name said while these guys try and distract me, consider looking at the rewards of my Patreon.